and things like that. So we'll touch on this again when I get back, but that was kind of the main thing I wanted to get at. If we go to the modernism PowerPoint, there were a couple slides that I had you look at, take notes on. First slide, the second one, what is modernism? We're going to be talking about modernism for the next couple weeks, especially as we get into some of the modern poetry and Great Gatsby and things like that. But modernism took place around the 1920s, maybe a little bit earlier, and as it says in the notes, it reflects the faith in traditional American beliefs and values, including the American dream. So what happened is there were a whole bunch of pretty big societal things happening at this time. World War I was taking place, and a lot of soldiers. I'm going to show you a poem when I get back, written by a British soldier, and the poem is about. It's called Dulce Decorum Est, and it was sweet and just to die for one's country. This guy's poem was about trench warfare and watching one of his, a guy he knows, die in a mustard gas attack. And so there were a lot of soldiers who returned from the war, and the things that they experienced in the war didn't, when they got back to the United States, a lot of things they were taught in terms of about traditional American values didn't seem to make sense in light of what they'd experienced in the war. And so it really caused them to kind of question a lot of things that they'd been traditionally taught as they were growing up. And we'll look at a couple more of those, some more of those things as we get into the unit a little bit. Going on to slide 3, talks about the American dream. There was the big stock market crash right around this time, and so the traditional rules that you play by, that you've been taught, if you work hard and you save your money and you invest wisely, you can do well, and you can make yourself a success no matter what background you come from, no matter how wealthy your parents were. You can achieve money, you can achieve happiness, you can get a house, and you can do all those things. And around this time, and those things are certainly possible, but they may not be quite as straightforward as some people are led to believe. And so, especially once we get into the Great Gatsby, that's what that's one of the big themes in the Great Gatsby, that there's this character who does everything possible to achieve this, and it just doesn't end up working out in the end. Going on to slide 4, Harsh Awakening. So these were some of the things that were going on, as I kind of just mentioned, World War I, massive destruction, and just a brutal war, trench warfare, and gas attacks, and one of our professors who leads the program that I teach at the college and the schools lectured on this a little bit, and she said, there would just be a line of people, and you would need to climb up over the trench, and people would just get mown down, person after person. You'd just stand there and watch it happen, and then it would be your turn. So these events, and also some cultural things going on, painting in different styles. If you think of Picasso, and I'll show you a picture of a Picasso painting, but if you've ever seen one, you probably have. It's one like a portrait, except eyes here, noses here, mouths here, and it just, everything looks different. Just experimentation with art and artistic forms, and different ways to write and paint. In addition to big cultural things like Sigmund Freud. Sigmund Freud had the idea, and I'll get into this a little bit more when I get back, but of, people traditionally thought of your mind and the way you think about things as whole. You know what you're thinking because you're actively thinking it, but he came up with an idea that there are parts of your brain and mind that you aren't really aware of that they're working. The subconscious part of your brain and the conscious part of your brain. Conscious part is where you're actively thinking, I'm hungry, I want to go eat, I want to do these things. Subconscious part of your brain would be, say that you're upset about something and you just decide, I'm not going to think about this anymore. I'm done. It's over. I'm not going to think about it, and it's gone. And you just kind of bury it deep. Those things don't go away. And so Freud had this idea that there was a whole part of your brain that you didn't even know about that was working and influencing your behavior and influencing the things you think and the things you do. And that really weirded people out. In addition to Einstein's theory of relativity, just a whole bunch of things happening which changed the way people looked at the world, all in one kind of a big fell swoop. And these events led to, as it says, a strong disillusionment. So disillusionment means the illusions that you held, that one previously held, are taken away. Okay, so when Freud developed this new idea, then the idea that, I know the way my brain works and I'm in control of everything, maybe that went away. Okay, and so people become disillusioned with society. And we'll be looking at there's lots of examples that we're going to be reading in that of people kind of feeling that way as these different changes have taken place. Going on to slide 7, I had you skip a couple of those, and I'll look at those. Those are some more cultural changes. Characteristics of modern literature. As I was kind of getting into experiments with form and technique in poetry and prose, we're going to read some poetry that gets pretty weird. And it gets rid of a lot of the traditional rules, like if you think of like sonnets and things that have very strict rhyme scheme and meter. Everything is really laid out, specific number of syllables per line. We're going to move way away from that into people just trying. Some of the poems we're going to read are long and complicated. Some are 3-4 lines long, really, really short and simple. People just saying, you know what, I don't need to write the way everyone else has written up to this point, and I'm going to break the rules and change them. One of the literary techniques that we'll look at a little bit is called stream of consciousness. And we're not going to read a lot of that because it's kind of complicated and frankly it's a little bit annoying, but it's trying to write the way your mind works. So if you think about the way you think about things, one thought goes into another, goes into another, goes into another. There aren't really pauses in your thinking. And if you think about that little kind of monologue that's going through your head all the time, trying to write that way. Another characteristic of this is a new kind of hero that's flawed, and disillusioned yet honorable and courageous. We're going to read some Ernest Hemingway, and this is really his big idea, that the best thing that someone can do in the face of a world which doesn't really make sense is to be stoic and to have grace under pressure, not get emotionally invested in what's going on, and to just kind of try to be clear and calm, and see through the problem, questioning, and also questioning of traditional beliefs and social structures. And we'll kind of get into that with the American Dream stuff, specifically with Great Gatsby. And there was just one other slide that I wanted to look at. Talk stream of consciousness, a lot of heroes, and lastly, what still remains. American modernists challenged the American dream, but retained some of its ideals, the ideal of self-reliance. So even if you were to kind of trace this value all the way back to Puritan times, this is one that has shown up in time period after time period after time period, the importance of relying on yourself and everyone kind of take care of themselves. Writers such as Hemingway still envision American landscape as a kind of Eden. I think that's about all I wanted to get into. So anyway, big picture of this. Modernism is a time period when the artistic movements that were going on kind of really mirrored the changes that people had about the way they thought about society and the way they started to kind of question things that they'd been taught and question things that they believed in previously. So that was a long, boring lecture for me, but at least like I've got green on my face. There's that. So the rest of the period, you're going to watch the end of Their Eyes Are Watching God. I'm going to show about the last 20-25 minutes. So if you've seen a little bit of that, just kind of go with it. It won't be too much. And then I will be back tomorrow. Thanks.